Albert Einstein once said, if the species of the bees were wiped off the face of the earth, humans would have 4 years left to live. Good evening. My name is Sam Chaney, and tonight I'm here to talk to you about the declining of the population of bees over the past 20 years. Bee population has dropped quite drastically over the past 20 years to the point where scientists believe that they are becoming endangered. The two main problems that bees face are parasites and humans. Right here is the bee mite, and what the mites will do, they're a parasite, which those of you who don't know what a parasite is, they're an organism that feeds off another organism, and which only one of those organisms benefits from the relationship, which the other organism usually ends up dead. What the mites will do is they'll climb on the backs of the bees and just continue to repopulate, and they're just dragging the bees down just very slowly. And if you've ever heard the term busy as a bee, bees have lots of jobs to do, and whenever they're being slowed down by these mites, it's costing efficiency in the hive, which eventually leads to a slow, steady collapse of the hive. This is a hive beetle. They're larger than your average bee. They come into the hive and eat the larvae of the bees, which, of those of you who don't know what larvae is, it's the young bees or infant bees. So the bees aren't large enough to scare the beetles away, so they just continuously eat eggs. Even though the queen lays thousands of eggs a day, once they build up a strong enough population, the queen can't keep up with them. So over the long period of time, which the queen's trying to keep up and keep the hive going, the beetles, just same as the mites, just eventually bring down the hive. And then humans use pesticides, which about 85% of pesticides are toxic to bees. 1/1,000,000th of a drop of a pesticide is enough to kill a bee. And what usually happens is bees really help in agriculture. They bring the profit up quite a bit when the farmer uses them. So these beekeepers will bring in their bees and to help pollinate the crops. And the farmers don't usually think to tell them that they're spraying their pesticides. And by the time they spray, it's usually too late for the beekeepers to get their bees out of the way. How I got interested in the product. Beekeepers have been in my family for a long time, and I wanted to carry on the tradition of beekeeping. And my mentor, Mr. Weimer, also told me a lot about bees whenever I was taking his woodshop class. He'd tell me stuff all the time about how interesting his bees were, and I just kept asking questions, and I got extremely interested in bees. And my product was building this box right here, and with Mr. Weimer, and I also captured wild bees. And over here is actually one of the spare boxes that I'll put in a couple of years. This is one of the dividers in the hive. And this middle here is what the bees actually build on top of. And it's shaped like the honey cells right there, and those continue to build off of them. And this hive right here is exactly what that bottom box there is. And the bees will just continue to build up. And here in a couple of years, well, in 1 year I'll add this box on, but in a couple of years I'll be able to take the top box there and actually be able to harvest some honey, which is what I eventually intend to do. Can we help our bees? The answer is yes. Mite beetles are very easily stopped. If a beekeeper is paying attention to his hive, he will see whenever they've first infiltrated the hive. There's a simple trap you can use that draws the beetles in and suffocates them. And once you have that set up, then they can't get established from there. Pesticides, if the farmers would just look at their pesticides and realize which ones are not toxic to bees and which ones aren't, that would be as simple as that. But an even better solution would be if we would pass some laws in Congress to get to where the pesticide manufacturers had to make their pesticides safe to bees, then there would be no problems at all. The only problems I see in the future are mites, because scientists have not come up with any ways to stop the mites. They've tried breeding different kinds of bees to groom the mites off of them, but have been unsuccessful so far. And there's no sort of spray or trap that can stop the mites. Some things just the ordinary person can do that doesn't have bees. You can plant a small garden with flowering plants if you would like, or if you don't want to do that, you can even do as little as putting a flowering plant on your windowsill. It doesn't seem like much, but that can really help a bee. Another little small thing you can do is just put a little cup of water out on your back porch or something. Most people don't think that insects would drink water because they're so small, but bees actually drink quite a bit of water, and that's a huge help in the process of making honey. Some of my challenges. My mentor retired halfway through the year, so my time with him was quite limited after that. We only ended up meeting one time after he retired, which was when we actually got the bees. So that was kind of strained on time after midway through the year. Another one of my challenges is I'd never worked with bees before. And whenever you first open up a hive and there's 35,000 bees swarming around your head, things can get a little crazy. So I had to overcome that. My conclusion. With everybody pitching in just a little more and pulling a little more weight, whether you're planting a little flower or buying several beehives yourself, we can easily restore and start to rebuild on the bee population. And within a few years, we can be back to a healthy limit. Any questions? Yes.
The trap for the beetles, is that outside of the hive?
No, it's within the hive.
Okay, so it's got to be pretty small then.
Yeah, it's not very big. You just set it on the bottom and they just,
But it can trap several?
it's continuous. It just, yes.
How do you trap wild bees?
Well, you don't necessarily trap them. You try to find like a bee tree or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But there is ways where you can take like smells from a queen bee and put it in a box, and that'll draw in other wild bees. And that's called a swarm box. And you can open that up, and the bees will just all be clinging to that scent or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll just take those from there. But you'll usually have to buy a queen off the internet if you do that. Any more questions?
Yes, I am extremely fascinated with this topic because it's something I don't know anything about at all. But what has really caught me is that it seems like I thought that people did bees just for the purpose of honey, but I'm not getting that so much from you. I'm seeing like a real respect and like almost affection for the bee population, and right? So you're not so motivated by just getting honey someday, right?
Well, honey, in the United States, on my trifold there's over $300 million that are being accumulated over, but those are just the major bee, usually operations. Right. But they're really a dying breed, and the human race is actually in quite a bit of danger if they go completely extinct. So yeah, I've got a large amount of respect for these. Yes.
So did I hear you right that you have to wait a year to go get honey off of your beehive? Or did I not hear that?
Preferably 2.
Oh, 2.
Because if you take your honey within the first year, you're just going to kill them, because that's actually their food, which most people know that, but they strategically store that up so they have just enough to get through the winter. And what you do is on your top hive, on your top box, you'll put a cutoff where the worker bees can go up, but the queen's too big to fit through. And what she doesn't touch, the workers won't touch either. So they'll use up those bottom 2, and you're free to take off the top box whenever you want to harvest it. But you want to build up the strength of the hive before you take away a large amount of honey, which is usually in the ballpark of 40 pounds.
Wait, 40 pounds of honey?
No. On the top box, yeah.
Oh, wow. So how will you know when it's ready, or like when it's at full capacity of bees?
Well, you'll just kind of,
you know what I mean?
You'll just keep checking really
okay.
Every couple months, and whenever you see the numbers improve, and whenever it's a real warm, hot day with not a lot of wind, there'll be a lot coming in and out of the hive, and that's how you can kind of get a rough estimate on how many bees you have. And if you keep checking for parasites and stuff like that, you'll usually continue in population growth. Any more questions?
Yes, I have one last one. So who's going to go take care of your beehive while you're going off to college?
Well, since they're pretty low maintenance.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, like
okay.
Only every couple months you probably need to check on them. Some people do it more, some people do it less. But whenever I come back, which after football season, I'll be able to come back quite frequently, so I'll be able to check it.
Okay.
Thank you.